My name is Rich Red. This is my first video. Today I want to explain bow performance. So I'm going to take you into my shop here. Take a look around. Here's the bows we're going to be testing right now for arrow speed. And of course got to put in the plug. This is my website, www.redbow.com. Check it out. Alright, so I got 3 bows here. I got 138 pound bow, which is the red one. I also have 2 43 pound bows. The green one and the one with the blocky riser, that's just a test riser. It's just an experimental bow. So we're going to be testing them for arrow speeds. And after we test for arrow speeds, I'll explain to you the differences in what efficiency is as far as performance is concerned. So let me put this camera down and get set up. I'm going to put you onto the chronograph. First bow I'll be testing is the my newest, fastest bow at 43 pounds. It's a very efficient bow. I'm shooting a 410 grain arrow, and all the bows have a 7-inch brace height. It's 194 feet per second. And all these bows are being drawn back to 28 inches. The next bow is also 43 pounds. Same arrow, 410 grains. .28 inches, 184 feet per second. It's not bad. The last bow I'll be testing is only 38 pounds. And I'll be testing this bow with the 370 grain arrow. I went down with a lower arrow weight, being it's a lower weight bow. I'll explain all that later on about grains per pound. .175 feet per second. Let's put this 410 grain arrow in this 38 pound bow to see what kind of arrow speed we get out of it. .168 feet per second. By the way, this is my shooting machine here. Let me zoom out. This is the shooting machine that I use. Simple winch, works great. I'm not crazy about the those trailer winches they use. Makes a lot of racket and takes forever to draw the bow back. It's way overkill. Using a 1,000-pound winch to draw back a 40 or 50-pound bow. So we'll come outside here where I got better lighting. Alright, so what you just witnessed is bow efficiency. As you can see, one bow, you had 2 bows at the same exact weight, and one shot a lot faster than the other one. That's because the one bow is built more efficiently than the other bow. There's a lot of tricks to do that. I've been working on it for some years now to get to that point where I'm hitting the 190s right now, and that's at 10 grains per pound. Most of your bows out there that you buy off the shelf are going to average probably in the 170s, maybe even lower, maybe the 160s at 10 grains per pound. So things to think about when you're purchasing a bow, or you know, you want to do better at hunting, or do better with your target shooting. A more efficient bow, a high performance bow, will give you better accuracy. So sorry, this is my first video, so it's hard for me to talk to a camera. So it will give you better accuracy because it gives you a flatter trajectory. So it's a good thing to have a higher performance bow if you're trying to for better penetration in the animal, or for accuracy hunting and hitting your spot, vital areas on the animal, and then also for target shooting, for hitting you want to hit the bullseye, of course. So you want a flatter trajectory will give you better accuracy. I'm going to get into that later on and talk about that also. So I guess that's enough info for now until I continue this video later on. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'm back. We're heading back toward the archery range here. This is where I shoot my bows. And there's the new backstop I just put up out of carpet. 2 layers of carpet. It's good enough to handle, stop some arrows. So what I'm going to attempt to do is I put a piece of tape up on that target there. I have my 3 bows that I'm going to be shooting at it, and I'm going to put the top of the arrow right on that tape. So when I aim, the top of my arrow will be, when I look through my eye, will be dead even with that tape. And we're going to see where the arrows land with each bow, being that they're all different speeds. Alright, I'm going to spare you the drudgery of watching me shoot arrows. I'm going to shoot those 3 bows and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to attempt to explain trajectory to you, arrow trajectory, and aiming. And this first drawing up top here, we have this is your eyeball, and this is your arrow. Here's your anchor point. When you have your arrow, when you're ready to shoot, you have your anchor point here. Here's the tip of your arrow. As you can see, your sight of aim is going straight to that target, and that arrow point, you use that as a reference in most cases of shooting or aiming with traditional archery. You use the arrow point as a reference to aim to your target. Now when you have the target just above, let's say the bullseye, just above the arrow point, that would be called spot on aiming. Or the middle of the bullseye to the top of your arrow point, that would be spot on aiming. Okay, so as you can see, when you release the arrow and shoot it, it's going to take an arc. It's called trajectory. And when it reaches its apex, somewhere around here, that's the highest point of trajectory. And after that apex, the arrow will just start to drop, and as it goes further, it drops faster and faster, as in the bottom drawing right here. You can see how it starts out somewhat flat, it reaches its apex maybe right about there, starts dropping, and then it starts dropping faster and faster. What we have here is 2 marks. This top one represents your eye. This bottom one represents your arrow, just kind of like what you see right here. And on a higher performance bow, you'll see the apex goes out a little. Let's move this back a little bit more. The apex goes out right about to number 3 right there, okay? And that's the peak or the height or the apex of your trajectory, the highest point of your trajectory. Anything after that starts dropping. Now you notice what's at about 3/4 of an inch down here, maybe an inch at the most. Okay, so this would be represent your high performance bow. Let's call this 30 yards. This black line is 30 yards. This is 0. This is somewhere in between. I don't know, 15 or 20 yards. 25 yards is the apex of your arrow flight. Okay. Now for a bow that shoots a little bit slower, the apex dropped back a little bit. You have a little bit shorter apex. It went back to about number 2 right here. Okay, so it's going to be a little shorter distance. The slower the bow you have, the apex is going to drop back further and further and further. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can see this on this video here. All right, now let's go to even a slower bow. Well, notice this also at 30 yards. That's almost double the distance it dropped down. So now let's go with even a slower bow. Now you can see I lined up these 2 points. It's your eye, here's your arrow. Your apex is about number 1 right here. Look how much that arrow drops down here. Drops a whole lot more. Double or triple the distance of the first arrow, and maybe double of the second. So hopefully I explained that you all can get an idea the difference between trajectories. Fast bow is going to have a very flat trajectory, 30 yards, 0 to 30 yards. Medium shooting bow is going to have a little bit more arc in the trajectory. It's going to drop a little bit more. And then a slower shooting bow, it's really going to drop a lot. So hopefully I didn't confuse you all with that. Okay, I'm back. I'll scoot down here a little bit more so you could see me. As you can see, I got my collar, my shirt button right earlier in the video. Didn't even button my shirt right. And I can hear you all out there saying, why am I going to take technical advice from a guy who can't even button his shirt right? So here I have a chart that I made up. I did some shooting in the backyard, and I shot all 3 bows that we're testing. We got the different arrow speeds from a 410 grain arrow, 168. We're not going to be concerned about the draw weights of the bow. We're more concerned about arrow speed. So let's just throw out the draw weight of the bow straight out the window, because I'll tell you real quick that, speaking of bow efficiency, that my friend's bow, he has a 50-pound long bow, and we both shot the same grain arrow, same exact arrow, out of his bow and my bow. If he has a 50-pound bow, and I forget what the draw was or whatever, probably 28 inches, 29 inches. I think we were shooting from our finger shooting. His bow shot 172 feet per second. And my bow was a 40, I think it was this bow right here that we're testing. It's a 43-pound bow. This one right here. And I remember it shoot, well, there it is right there, 184 feet per second. I remember it shooting a 182 or 184. So it just goes to show you a higher draw weight bow will not necessarily shoot faster than a lighter draw bow. That's where efficiency comes in. That's where your high performance bow comes in. So there's no need to draw back a 50-pound bow if you don't have to. If you could draw back a 43-pound bow and even shoot faster than a 50-pound bow. All right, so here we go. Here's back to the chart. We have a chart here, the 3 bows, 168, 184, 194. Okay. The colors represent the yardage that we're shot at: 15, 22, 26, and 30 yards. Okay. All bows were aimed. Here's your point of aim right here. I discussed that earlier. So the top of the arrow, the tip of the arrow was aimed right here. Okay? At 15 yards, The 168 feet per second bow shot 1 inch above point of aim. This bow shot 2 inches above point of aim. And this bow is really still climbing, shot 4 inches above point of aim. Now at 22 yards, look at the difference now. This one dropped a lot. It's a slower bow. It went past the apex, at least of the point of aim, and started dropping drastically. And this dropped down to 7 inches. This one at 22 yards dropped down at 4 inches. And this one at 22 yards only dropped down 2 inches. Now at 26 yards, look at the spread, how they're spreading out. And it's pretty, I found it pretty amazing that they were kind of lining up as they were spreading out. It's kind of like an average there, where this one's a little bit offline, but it really dropped a lot. So at 26 yards, this bow dropped 11.5 inches below the intended target at point of aim. This bow dropped 5.5 inches, and this bow dropped 2.5 inches. Look how minor that bow has dropped. So this is real close to the apex. So it's, or to the point of aim, at the peak of apex where the point of aim is anyway. So look how little movement you got right here. I'll explain that probably in a minute. We'll put up the other chart. At 30 yards, look how much this dropped. If you remember the last chart I put up, it really begins to sink. It starts out flat and it begins to sink a lot. At 30 yards with this bow, it dropped 12 inches, and with this bow, it dropped down 7 inches. So as you can see, with this high performance bow shooting 194 feet per second at 28 inches, this dropped very little. And I have to add a note into that too, that these are not the exact speeds that all these arrows were shot at. This is just a reference, because my draw is 29 inches. So these are the speeds at 28 inches. Just give you a reference of how they're shooting at 28 inches. But the real arrow speed when I shot these bows was a bit higher, probably 9 feet per second higher. Usually when you add an inch of draw to a bow, it goes about 8 to 9 feet per second higher. So this one was probably actually shooting at 203, 193, and this one was probably 177, I guess. But now I want you to take notice. If you're shooting at a target at 30 yards away and you misjudge by 4 yards, your arrow is only going to make about a 4.5 inch difference, 4 to 5 inch difference. It's going to drop. If you misjudge that, if you're shooting at 30 yards and you say, well, I think it's 26 yards, I'm going to shoot for 26 yards where I think the intended target is, whether you're hunting or 3D shooting, because you got to guess your yardage. You're going to drop 4 or 5 inches. And that's pretty good distance. 30 yards is pretty far. That's about usually about as far as 3D courses go. Maybe some go 35 yards. I don't know. But where I shoot, they go generally 10 to like 25 yards, most of the targets. So if you make a mistake and misjudge the distance, you could still be on your target and still possibly hit a vital area in your intended target if you're hunting. Now look at this. Suppose you're shooting a very slow bow and you misjudge by 4 yards. There's a 12.5 inch difference right here. You think you're going to miss your target? I would think so. So just by misjudging by 4 yards, you it really begins to drop, and you're gonna miss your target by a long ways. The medium performance bow actually still does pretty good. If you stay in for this lighter shooting bow, if you stay about 15 to 18 yards, you should shoot probably pretty accurately. Even if you overdraw your bow, underdraw your bow, or misjudge your distance, you could still probably be pretty accurate with this bow. With this bow, you know, you could go out a little bit further. As you can see right here, between 22 and 26 yards, that's only about a 2-inch difference right there, I think it is. So I don't know, 2.5 inch difference. So you still can be pretty accurate, but once you start going out to 30 yards, even the medium weight bow, look how much it's beginning to drop. So you could be off if you misjudge it by 4 yards, you could be off whatever that is right there, 6.5 inches. And you could actually miss, if you're shooting a little low on your target, whether it's a deer or when you're hunting or a 3D target, and you're shooting a little low, your aim is off, or you underdraw a little bit, you're going to definitely miss your intended target right here. With a high performance bow, at between 22 and 26 yards, you're not off very much at all. If you're 4 yards off, you're still probably going to hit the bullseye or close to it. From 26, even from 22 to 30 yards, you could be, what is that, 8 yards off, and you're still going to be roughly maybe 5 inches away from your intended target, which isn't too bad, but still that's not very good. But the bottom line is a higher performance bow is going to put you on your mark. A lot easier to stay on your mark because there's all these other variables involved: windage, how far you draw your back. If you're a little bit light on your draw, a little heavier on your draw, it's going to change. So yeah, as you can see, the spread right here, look how close the spread is and how they slowly get wider apart when you go to a lighter draw bow or a lighter weight bow. We're not even talking about weights. We're talking about arrow speed, a slower moving arrow. Now you can go to this can apply to heavier arrows. If you use a lighter weight arrow, if I shot the same bow with a lighter weight arrow, these numbers would be a little bit closer together. They would come together a little bit closer. And if I shot a lighter weight arrow with this mark would probably move up to here somewhere. So if I shoot a heavier arrow, this mark would probably move down to here somewhere. Same with this one, move down to here, and this one will move way down here. So, and if you have a short draw, oh my goodness, this is going to be way down here, and this will drop. All these will drop down. All the dots will drop down. So hopefully I explained that to you, and you can get a good idea on how a higher performance bow can affect your accuracy when you're shooting at a target. If you're a target shooter and you know your known distance, and your distance is fairly close, you could get very accurate with a lower performance bow. Okay, but you got to be a good shooter. If you underdraw it or overdraw it, or a few other things involved too, other variables involved, you'll be off your mark a little bit quicker, a little bit more. So, but when you don't know your distance, you're going to have a wider spread. Okay, I put this chart back up, and this last chart, this curve or this arc represents the dots on this last chart I just showed you. So when we look at that high performance bow shooting 194 feet per second, you could see a very low trajectory. Very small arc right here. So the margin for error is a lot smaller than, let's say, this bow, this low performance bow right here, where look at the margin of error right here. Very big, very big. So I hope you all comprehend that and can understand what the point I'm trying to make here.